The rumors are true, and Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition has yet another expansion, and this expansion is called the Mountain Royals expansion. This expansion introduces 2 new civilizations, the Armenians and the Georgians, while also reworking the classic civilization Persians. In this video, I'm going to focus primarily on the Armenians, break their tech tree down, and show you some of the unique things that they offer in the game. Okay, so the first 2 things we're going to talk about are also things that the Georgians have. However, the way it works for their Armenians is a little bit different. And the first focus is their economic building, or unit, the Mule cart. A Mule cart is an economic unit that you build that acts as a lumber camp or a mining camp. Once created, this can be moved around. So you can take one resource and then promptly pick up and move to another resource. Or for efficiency purposes, you can move it to be closer to the resource over time. Now, a mule cart, unlike the majority of economic buildings in Age of Empires 2, costs food and wood. For the Georgians, it's 100 wood and 20 food. They also start with 1 for free. We can talk about that in Georgians video. For the Armenians, it is a bit cheaper because their mule carts cost 25% less. In addition to that, mule cart technologies are 25% more effective. Now, 25% more effective is a big number, but here's some stats that I was given to attach to this. Double bit axe would be 25% gather rate instead of 20%. Gold shaft mining is plus 19% instead of plus 15%. Basically, the improvement is 25% greater, if that makes sense. So I find the mule cart to be really interesting. Initially, I was very much like, oh God, this is so different. What do I do? But once you get a feel for it, and once you set a hotkey for it, it allows some unique economic variation to the game. Now, obviously, it's very new, and I've only played a few games, but where I could find it being useful is maybe with a fast castle build where you want to mine a lot of stone, where you could take the wood in Dark Age, and if you really wanted to go aggressive and not have any balance whatsoever, you could just wheel that mule cart right over to the stone to then mine stone for, I assume, a castle. In general, it's probably worth it to make multiple. It does cost food, though, so it is different than your standard build order, which takes some getting used to. Where I think it is the most effective, though, is not necessarily wheeling them around the map, but it is using them on wood lines over time. You can actually shift queue them as well to follow the trees as you cut through. It's still going to take a lot of testing, but I feel like the efficiency aspect of the mule cart is going to be insane for the Armenians and the Georgians' economy. Okay, so moving past the mules, the next thing to talk about is the Fortified Church. The Armenians and the Georgians do not have access to a monastery. They have a slightly bigger, slightly more cool-looking church, or a fortified church, which is 200 wood, as opposed to the 175 wood for a monastery. There is something very unique about this church. It is that you can garrison villagers and your monk units inside of the church. Have the monks on open field and the enemies coming in with light cav? Whoop! Suddenly you're safe. This is a little scary from a balance perspective. There are a lot of complaints about monks these days, and pros get more use out of them now than ever. So from a balance perspective, it is very worrying, but that's how it works. The other thing about the Fortified Church is you can create a warrior priest. The warrior priest, which looks pretty cool if you ask me, can attack and heal and pick up relics. The only thing the warrior priest cannot do is convert. I'm going to assume that is because he doesn't have a book. Because the monks have a book. I don't know. So you could, in theory, combine a couple warrior priests to move forward with your army, and it would fight alongside your army as well as heal. What I haven't tested too much is it healing while it's fighting? Does it need to be standing? The rate at which it heals when compared to a monk? All of those things are things we'll have to figure out. But the fact is, we now have a monk that can attack and heal. Where also will be very useful is if you have a warrior priest getting a relic, and there's a scout sitting by it, the warrior priest would be able to defend itself. The warrior priest costs 30 food and 60 gold, so it is not a full gold cost though. So for really heavy monk plays, you would probably have to have a better food eco than your standard all-in monk play. Considering the Armenians have access to every single monk technology, I think this is going to be wild, and players who like to play with monks are going to be playing a lot with this civ. Another thing about the Fortified Church is that the first Fortified Church provides a free relic. So lots of reasons to make a monastery, lots of reasons to make these priests or these monks. Expect the Wololo. Moving to the more traditional tech tree for the Armenians, the barracks units except men-at-arms are available one age earlier. So if you look at the tech tree here, you can see this is feudal age, And in Feudal Age, you can have long swordsman. In Castle Age, you could have two-handed swordsman and champion. This is pretty radical. And what I think is nice about it is it could allow some all-in style pushes. Why spend 800 food and 200 gold in going to Castle Age when you could just upgrade your man-at-arms and make a bunch more of them? It is very unique, but it allows like timing attacks with a unit that usually is kind of awkward to use in this game. So I think this could be super strong. Even if you're planning to go to the Imperial Age and want to play with infantry, the fact that you could get the two-handed swordsman technology while you're all on the way to Imp, maybe even click champion before you arrive to the Imperial Age, is a huge time saver. So this alone might make the Armenians one of the better infantry civs out there. And since we're talking about infantry, I might as well move to the Imperial Age unique tech called Feriters? Hardy could correct me if I'm wrong. And this unique technology adds 30 HP to infantry, as well as increase the warrior priest heal speed. Combine this with the infantry +2 line of sight team bonus, and yeah, you have some of the strongest infantry in the game. And if you can get there, it's going to be really hard to stop. The thing I will say about this unique tech, though, is it does take quite a bit of time to research, and it is 550 food and 400 gold, which might not seem like a lot, but when you're trying to get blacksmith technologies and you have to go from man-at-arms all the way to champion, it takes time, and it's not realistic to see this in every game. You are really committed to infantry if you do this, and the Armenians could potentially be exposed against some other things, so potentially really strong, but also really hard to get to. So let's then move to the Castle Age unique tech. Sorry, we're going backwards. The Cilician Fleet. Now, again, I did not practice the pronunciation there. I apologize, and Hardy will correct me. But this technology gives demolition ships plus 33% blast radius, galley line, and drawmans +1 range. Now, I'm immediately excited to see what demos are going to do here, but that's not enough to make this civ an elite naval civilization, or even a solid naval civilization like the tech tree describes them as. But that's when I tell you I skipped something. You see, what I should have done is I should have told you about the galley line firing 2 projectiles before I told you about the unique techs. We were talking about the barrack units, and then I had to move to unique tech. So the order of this video is kind of screwy. The galley line fires 2 projectiles. So that right there is insanely strong. You can go for a feudal age galley play and already be in a slightly better position than your opponent. This is also very interesting for our meta because I feel like on water maps, we are not seeing the galley line that frequently right now. So yeah, later in the game, if you want to mix in some demos or even get extra range on your galley line, you have this unique tech. The Armenians are a very capable water civilization with this. Now, that's a lot of stuff, but the one thing we are forgetting to talk about that's unique is the unique unit out of the castle. And this bad boy is called the Composite Bowman. Now, the Composite Bowman has very low range and also very low HP and also low attack. It's just 40 HP, 4 base attack, and 4 range, which for an archer unit isn't really that great. However, this unit ignores armor. So usually units like knights are fairly good against archers because of all the armor adding up. But ignoring armor kind of compensates for the lesser attack. So obviously the Composite Bowman is not going to do very well against things that don't rely on armor. So other archers I could see doing very well against the Composite Bowman because the other archers will outrange them. Not to mention that archers in general don't necessarily rely on armor as much. And then things like siege going to be very strong against this unit with crossbowmen or longbowmen or some archers that have more range in attack. There is sometimes a chance that archer units can take out siege. The Composite Bowman is going to be extremely vulnerable against siege compared to your standard archer. That alone makes it kind of tricky to use in my opinion. The cost isn't too bad at 35 wood and 45 gold, but where I think this unit suddenly becomes somewhat viable is actually just in the Imperial Age, where it is only 600 wood and 500 gold to get to the elite version. Again, it's still a bit tricky because the stat changes don't change that much. It is a slight increase in HP, and as you can see in the side-by-side, it's still very weak compared to a lot of units. But that might be needed because the Armenians clearly are very strong with the infantry, and I think going to be very strong with their economy. It's really not the most exciting unique unit, but honestly, what is unique about the Civ is all the other stuff, the way its economy works, the Navy and the infantry, so I expect it to be pretty fun. Now, general tech tree things are really important to talk about. So we're going to start with the archer range. The Armenians lack hand cannon. They also lack heavy cav archer. So the only real normal archer line we're going to see is probably the arbalest or the elite skirmisher. Lacking thumb ring does mean that their arbalest aren't that exciting, but they still do get full blacksmith upgrades. So I could see playing into arbalest and skirmisher in combination with infantry, which is very common. Obviously, like we discussed before, they're an infantry civilization. So they get access to the halberdier upgrade as well as champion. And of course, to remind you, the swordsman line is available an age earlier. Their stable units leave a bit to be desired, capping out a light cav and capping out a cavalier, not having access to camel. They don't get the final armor on their cav, which I'll show you in the blacksmith in a moment. So it's not a civilization you're going to see a lot of stable units with if you want to have success. The siege, also kind of awkward. They do not have siege ram. They also do not have siege onager. They do get heavy scorpion, and then they lack bombard cannon. But I think the most notable things would be siege ram, siege onager, and bombard cannon being excluded. It makes this civ one of the weaker siege civilizations. So like we said, they get full blacksmith technologies for the archer units. They get full attack upgrades for the melee units. They lack the final armor, so their stable units will struggle, but they get the full armor on their infantry. As for the Navy, they're pretty strong when it comes to range. Well, not just range, because they get the heavy demo ships that get more blast radius, but their galley line with the double projectiles is really strong. You combine that then with the additional range they can get with the unique tech, and they might have some of the best galleons and dramans in the game. The weak point I see of this civilization on water is maps where fire ships are useful in the long run, because they do lack fast fire ship. There's nothing glaring missing from the university. All the big basic technologies you really want here, like masonry, murder holes, ballistics, chemistry, are all there. And then, as we discussed earlier, their monks are absolutely ridiculous. So they get the warrior priest, the monk, and then all the monk upgrades. And that, my friends, is a quick overview of the Armenians. The big takeaways are the Mule cart, the Fortified Church, and then probably the barracks units, and how you can research certain upgrades one age earlier. Having played with this civilization, I feel like the economy aspect is insane. There's going to be so many things that people can figure out when it comes to efficiency with the economy, and you combine a solid economy with monks that can garrison inside monasteries, and I think the civ at a high level is going to be really tricky to deal with. The thing I'll say about this civilization, though, is the best thing about it is infantry. And typically infantry at a very high level can struggle against lots of range units, lots of mobility. So it will have its weaknesses in being a rather slow civilization on land, though obviously can do a lot of crazy things on water. You guys are going to want to know if I think this is balanced. And to be honest, I'm not really sure right now. The thing is, the mule carts can lead to efficiency that I don't think devs can really account for because it probably hasn't been tested to a huge degree of efficiency. So that's going to take some time to figure out. I do like, though, the amount of variety and the way a mule cart can be used. Initially, I wasn't a fan, but it's kind of cool how you can move it around and there's endless possibilities. The thing that I think is the biggest problem with this civilization, and they might end up having to tweak this eventually, is the Fortified Church. And not only that, but also the warrior priest. The warrior priest being able to fight, pick up relics, heal, and then also garrison inside of the Fortified Church in combination with monks and in combination with the Armenians being able to get access to all monk technologies. That's a lot of bonuses in one. And that would be on the back of the mule cart eco. So I could see this being a balance problem in the future at a high level. Because let's be honest, the majority of players, they make monks to pick up relics. They're not usually using the monks in their fights. And that's my quick overview of the Armenians. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Please give me your thoughts. It is going to be my goal to cast games with this civilization. Just explore the unique ways this civilization plays out. So if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. We'll have more videos coming. And we can kind of learn together what this civilization is good at, bad at, and what cool tweaks you can do with their economy. Now, I am swamped at the moment. I'm currently finishing a tournament called Titans League, which you may be paying attention to, and working on some big announcements. But it is my goal to have the Georgians video tomorrow, and then the Persians video after that. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment. And as extra motivation for me, because I'm running on fumes, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the overview. Also, special shout out to Hardy, my editor, who put all the cool stuff into this video. He's probably only going to hear this audio after he spent the majority of the time editing the first portion. So, Hardy, you're the best. Thanks for the work, man. And that is it. I will see you all next time.